this project, we'll start with this image from Pexels by Pixabay of this courtyard, and we're going to remove the emblem above the walkway. We're going to clone a window to add another window, and we'll remove the artifacts up at the top that are distracting. Once we've done all that, we'll create a composite layer and adjust the shadows and highlights to balance this image out a little bit better. We'll go from this photo to this modified one. Let's jump over to Photoshop. I have my image open in Photoshop, and the first thing I'm going to do is duplicate the background layer. So I'm just going to right click on it or control click on the Mac and choose duplicate layer. You can name that layer courtyard if you like. I'm going to leave mine as background copy. And I'm going to take the magnifier tool and zoom in on this emblem above the doorway or the walkway. And here I'm going to go over to the toolbox, and in the healing brushes I'm going to choose the patch tool. Now the patch tool will allow us to take, like we're using the lasso, and just draw around the area that we want to, in essence, patch. So now I have my marching ants and the area selected, and I can click inside and just drag, and in essence creates a duplicate of that patch to the area that I want to use as the patch. I want to kind of make sure my bricks are lined up, and then you can do a Control D, and the emblem is gone. It doesn't look too bad. Next, we're going to clone this window to create a new window in this area. And to do that, I'm going to go to the Stamp Tools and choose Clone Stamp Tool. Now the Clone Stamp Tool works with creating a source and then painting from that source in a new area. So I'm going to drag a ruler guide down and kind of go through that middle part of the frame. And then over in the window, I'm going to adjust my brush a little bit larger. Holding down the Alt key or Option key on the Mac, you will get a crosshairs. I'm going to place that crosshairs on the frame on the right hand side where I have that ruler guide. I'm just going to click. That becomes my source point. Now I can come over here and I can begin to paint. And so it's replicating the pixels from the source onto my area where I'm painting. I'm just going to kind of outline this first. And then I can take a bigger brush. So I'm going to use the right bracket on my keyboard to increase the size of my brush. Now I can paint in the interior a little bit faster. I'm going to go for the very small brush. Just make sure I'm getting everything here that I want. And I have a little bit of an area that's clipped out from the balcony that juts out over that window. So what I'm going to do is create another source on this interior brick, my outer brick, and begin to paint that in. That looks pretty good. Got a slight indentation here, but in this busy photo, nobody's going to notice that unless they're trying to prove that this was a composite or an alteration to the image. Now the next thing I want to do is eliminate some of the artifacts that are up here. These power lines. I don't know if this is a roller coaster or part of a bridge. I'm going to get rid of this little area here above the roof line. A couple ways we can do that. We can do that with the spot healing brush. So we can come in and just begin to click in areas that we don't want. You might go over it several times. That's one way we could do this. The new remove tool though works pretty well, I believe. And I'm going to do this then with the remove tool. And with the remove tool, we can just simply paint through the areas that we want to remove. And again, we have to go over this a few times. By the way, if you hold down the Shift key, you can draw a perfect straight line. Again, we may need to go over this more than once. And over here is actually another building behind it. It's really washed out. You can get rid of that if you want. I'm going to leave it. And there's still a couple power lines in this area here that could be removed. Let's see how this does if we just paint through those. Did a great job. And one little last tip here I want to get rid of. I'm going to zoom out. We take the magnifier, hold down the Alt key, Option key on the Mac. We can zoom out. I'm going to take the hand, just simply come back in a little bit more. And I'll get rid of my ruler guide and take the Move tool, drag that up. Now, I've got some dark shadows over here on the right-hand side and some highlights that really hide all the detail in the pathway. We might have to bring some of that back through an adjustment. I'm going to try to balance this out a little bit between the shadows and the highlights. I'm going to go to the Image menu, choose Adjustments, Shadows and Highlights. I'm going to take the amount of shadows, I'm going to bring this up to a larger number, maybe about 50 to 54%, somewhere in there. And then the highlights, I want to bring up quite a bit. And you'll see some of the detail come back a little bit in that walkway around the steps. I don't want to go too much. I'm going to go about 90%. Now you can type in here, so if maybe I want to go 50%, I'll keep these even numbers just for the sake of clarity. And I'll say OK. So now we've gone from our original image here, and you can see the difference in the shadows and highlights. We've gotten rid of the distractions. We moved the window, got rid of that emblem, and so there then is our new image. So again, before and after. If you'd like to see more videos in the Photoshop Practicum playlist, click the title at the bottom. If you'd like to be alerted to new videos, please click my photo in the top right to subscribe to the channel.